In 99 years of Kansas basketball, there have been many great teams and players who have graced the crimson and blue. From the game's founder, Dr. James Naismith, to Fog Allen. Outstanding players the likes of Clyde Lovellette, Wilt Chamberlain, and Danny Manning are all part of the great Kansas basketball tradition. That tradition became even stronger in 1996-97. Kansas fans packed the Fieldhouse game after game to see one of the finest Jayhawk teams ever to take a basketball court. 34 victories, the second most wins in any KU season. Roy Williams' club opened the year with 22 straight victories without a loss, a KU first. This 96-97 Jayhawk team became accustomed to firsts. They held the number one ranking for 15 consecutive weeks and are the only KU team to finish number one in the final Associated Press poll. This team won the first ever Big 12 championship by 4 full games and cruised to the conference tournament title in Kansas City. They won the Maui Classic and the Great 8 event, set a school record by winning 29 regular season games while extending their home court winning streak to 44 games, the best mark in the country. This Kansas team featured 2 All-Americans, the Big 12 Player of the Year, 2 first-team academic All-Americans, and a National Coach of the Year. The road was not always a smooth one, but when faced with adversity, they banded together and found a way to win.
No question. I mean, I definitely feel, and this team feels, a part of Kansas basketball history and the tradition that the teams in the future will want to be a part of, and that's a special feeling.
Well, I think that the secret is that there are good people involved in this program, people who care about the game of basketball, people who love playing the game of basketball, and when you have that mixture together, then you have a element that's unbelievable, and that's what Kansas basketball is.
It was a time that I'll never forget, some memories that'll always be incredibly big for me. And again, the uniqueness of the kids and the kids, they're what make Kansas basketball.
Yes, the 1996-97 Kansas Jayhawks were champions on the court, but to KU fans, they will ever be known as champions of the heart. The groundwork for this phenomenal season was laid nearly 7 months before the Jayhawks took the court for a game.
I, Jacque Vaughn, will not forego my senior season. I will be back here to be the point guard for the University of Kansas.
He said he wanted to take the road less traveled. Just 5 months later, Vaughn would hit a severe bump in that road. In early September, during a pickup game with his teammates, he suffered a career-threatening injury.
Just look at all the positives that go along with the situation, that still I was able to be around basketball, that I had a chance to, if I had a determination, to fight against the injury and eventually get back on the court. So those were the things that I tried to concentrate on.
The birth of the season came in mid-October when thousands of basketball-starved fans packed the Fieldhouse for Late Night with Roy Williams. This annual affair has become a fan favorite as the players have a chance to show off some of their other talents. But it was senior Scott Pollard who stole the show this night. On bended knee, he proposed to his fiancée in front of 16,300 friends.
We had talked about marriage before, but she certainly wasn't expecting it. So that was the biggest thing, is I was able to surprise her, and I was able to do it in a way that was all me.
Kansas tipped off the 96-97 season against the Santa Clara Broncos in the San Jose Arena. For the first time in 3 years, Kansas would start a game without senior guard Jacque Vaughn. Ready or not, the responsibility of running the team fell directly on the shoulders of newly installed point guard Ryan Robertson.
My initial reaction was just disappointment for Jacque. You know, I was really disappointed for him, and I know how much he enjoys playing basketball, and for him to not be able to do that was disappointing for me. But I was also initially kind of maybe a little scared, you know.
And not only did he handle all that so well, he played well. And I think that he had more pressure and probably more focus on him than any single Kansas player I can remember in a long, long time.
The number 2 ranked Jayhawks stormed out of the gate with a Paul Pierce dunk.
And the tip goes to Pollard and down to Pierce, and he slams it in from the left-hand side for the Jayhawks.
But then struggled the rest of the half.
Now Jared Hass is on him. And there's a long one, and it's in there. It's a three-pointer. And Santa Clara has its first lead of the night.
Leading by only 4 points at the intermission, Kansas staged a furious 17-2 run, sparked by senior Jared Hass.
And a nice bit of defense gives the ball to KU. Fast break. Beautiful basket by Jared Hass. A magnificent assist from Ryan Robertson. And Jared Hass scores on the drive. Boy, I tell you, that's great determination by the Jayhawks. That was beautiful. Fast trying to look inside. Another steal. He cut off the passing lane. Jared Hass all the way. He scores again. Jared Hass really putting on a basketball clinic here in the second frame. Clara drops in both free throws, and again it's a 12-point game. Here comes Pierce, and he's fouled as he drives in from the left side for a Jayhawk two-pointer.
While the Jayhawks won the game by 12 points, an ominous trend had developed. Unknown at the time, Hass had broken his right wrist during this game while diving for a ball. Although he continued playing, the injury would haunt him throughout his senior season.
I knew I hurt it, and I didn't know to what extent. I thought it was probably a sprain, and in Maui it was still a little bit tender a few days later. I didn't know. I landed on the ground a few times that game, and I remember getting up, and it was kind of sore, but it wasn't excruciating pain. That night it was awfully tender, and as the couple weeks went on, it still felt like a jammed wrist, and the x-rays were negative the first time, didn't show up, and then just throughout the year gradually got a little worse.
Facing adversity is something this club would become all too familiar with. After passing their first test of the season, the Jayhawks traveled to the Hawaiian Islands, where they faced a talented field in the Maui Classic.
The Jayhawks are number 1. We're going all the way this year.
Still stinging from a less than dominant performance against Santa Clara, the Jayhawks wasted no time against the Louisiana State Tigers in Game 1.
Pollard inside, lays it in. Boy, he gave a lesson to Lester Earl right there, folks.
A swarming Kansas defense set the tone early, holding the Tigers scoreless for the first 6.5 minutes of the game.
BJ plays it to Pollard. He's going to stuff it again. Oh, boy. Another great move, this time against Dwayne Spencer. KU has jumped off 15-0 with 60% shooting.
And another Kansas steal. Pierce up the court, and he scores.
The Hawks jumped out to a 20-2 lead and never looked back.
Up the court, and he dumped it. He just jammed it.
Jayhawks got it inbound.
CB McGrath, the lob into Ray for the jump. Nice timing, CB to Ray for the easy basket.
4 Jayhawks scored in double figures, and Kansas dominated the boards in this 82-53 thrashing of the Tigers.
Now to Hass, layup good.
In the Maui Classic semifinals, the Hawks battled a determined California team led by Ed Gray.
Their bowl game a little later. Here's Gray shooting and scoring a three-pointer. Ed Gray has 12, and Cal's within 2.
The Jayhawks kept pace by pushing the ball up the court and knocking down key three-point basket.
And he hit it. It rattled in there. A three-pointer by Ryan Robertson. Magruder's on Robertson. Robertson penetrates. A dish left side to Hass into the lane for a shot. Good! Jared knocked it in there.
However, it was KU's gritty defense that was the difference in this one. While Gray scored a career-high 32, KU held him scoreless the final 11 minutes of the game.
A shot that is missing. Rebound LaFrenz for Kansas. Outlet Ryan Robertson. Robertson up that floor. Magruder trying to steal it. Robertson plays to Ray for a dunk. banging big bodies with Kenyon Jones. Hawks play it in. Here's Rafe inside on a jam and a beautiful feed from Robertson. We've seen him back-to-back games. Here's a lob into Pierce, and he stuffed it on the feed from Robertson. Jayhawks need a 2 to tie, a 3 to take the lead. Billy launches a 3. Swish! KU up by 1. KU up the floor, leading by 2, and then a steal. Cal's got it. Haas gets it back with a dive. He gives to Billy Thomas. What effort by Jared Haas.
Boy, I'll say, man.
What a wild game. Robertson from out front shoots it in. A three-pointer.
All of a sudden, look at Roy.
Leading by 1 point with 4 minutes left, the Hawks roared past the Bears with one of their patented runs. The 17-0 surge to close the game placed Kansas in the Maui championship game.
Goes inside, reverse layup, good! He's fouled! The basket counts!
I cannot believe that shot went in. We're set to play basketball. It's championship time from the island of Maui in the Hawaiian Islands.
The Maui Classic final pitted the Jayhawks against a surprising Virginia Cavalier club. It was a battle of wills in the first half, a half that featured 4 ties and 5 lead changes.
Missing, rebound Pierce, back up, and good! Paul Pierce!
Boy, what determination.
Rafe's going to shoot it against the big guy. Got it! Rafe just drilled a long 2-pointer.
KU Scott Pollard gave the Hawks the all-important momentum just before the half.
Go! Pollard gets it and scores! Does it count? Yes, it counts!
In the second half, the Hawks took flight on a 15-2 run that left the Cavaliers reeling.
Break, pass to Bradford, layup, stuffed! He jammed it! What a fast break!
That was beautiful.
Pollard provided the inside strength for KU, scoring 17 points and grabbing 13 rebounds. For the third straight night, Rafe LaFrentz dominated the inside game.
Up over his head! What a play!
However, it was Paul Pierce who took over this contest, scoring inside and out for a game-high 27 points.
Robertson against Harold Dean. Now over the side to Pierce. He puts his man in the air and he shoots and he hit it. He was almost knocked down when the guy got up, but Pierce scored anyway.
It was a milestone win for KU, the 1600th victory in the storied history of Kansas basketball. It was also the first of many trophies these Jayhawks would take home this season. Rafe LaFrentz was named tournament MVP, while teammates Jared Haas and Scott Pollard joined him on the all-tournament team.
It helped me with my confidence. Went out there, and Maui's a beautiful place. It was a great tournament, a lot of fun, and we were able to win that tournament and kind of got us started off on the right foot.
Now that their work was done, the Jayhawks took to the beach for some fun and sun.
We beat them. Yeah, them, and I think we beat some guys back there. We beat them really bad. Yes. An extra little thing. They got a faulty rope.
All right, Maxie.
All right, we made it. Yay!
Hey, I've changed my mind. I'm not going now.
Hi, we're here in Maui. This is Pollard Television. Get ready to rumble, baby. Here we got Ryan Robertson. Didn't make all-tournament team, but hey, he got better. In Coach Williams' words. Dork! Dork! Ryan, tell us about this trip. And tell us about the break you took from filming on Mission Impossible so you could be on this trip with us.
Yeah,
Mr. Tom Cruise, ladies and gentlemen. Tom Cruise. Go.
well, Nicole let me off for the weekend. Decided to head out here with the team.
Cut loose the chain, right? Dude, we got Jared Haas here. He's all greased up. Look at this guy. He wants to make himself whiter, so he put some white paste on.
I hear I'm a little red.
Yeah. You got to switch mics. sometimes you just got to roll with the punches. My first mic got stolen. What seems to be the problem here, sir?
They make me hardcore here. I got to make sure only hotel guests use the pool.
Oh,
congratulations.
Man.
These are the nicest guys that have broken into our pool yet.
Freshman here, he's new to the road trip thing. Not quite sure what to do with his time. Spent a little bit too much time playing video games, no doubt. Nick, tell us about the PlayStation. How do you sum up this trip so far?
I can't explain it in words, Scott.
You travel halfway across the world, play video games. By the way, all tournament team, what a player, huh?
Hey, thanks. I can even flip over a rake.
Yeah, cool. Let's catch this out.
Fantastic is one word I can put it in.
Fantastic. And, hey, tell me something about the fans. Were they great or what?
Oh, they were great. I mean, I just want to say mahalo to all the fans.
Mahalo. Mahalo. One word describes a vacation of a lifetime. Thanks for being with us. Mahalo. Aloha. Good night.
After a Thanksgiving dinner, the Hawks headed back to Lawrence for a weekend date with the San Diego Toreros.
Sheehan gets it.
The Hawks were sluggish from the start in this one.
Time Flannery for 3. He hit it, and San Diego leads by 6.
From a long range.
However, the Jayhawks kept pace on the offensive end of the floor.
McGrath to Haas in the corner, a shot. Good! A three-pointer by Jared Haas.
Kansas shot a phenomenal 60% from the field as 9 Jayhawks scored in the 79-72 victory. Now 5-0, KU vaulted to the top of the national poll, a spot they would hold the remainder of the regular season. Chicago's United Center set the stage for one of the great matchups of the young season. ESPN's Great 8 event pitted #1 Kansas against former #1 Cincinnati.
Pass stolen by Jared Haas. Haas up the court against Patterson, and he lays it in.
The Hawks were tested inside against 260-pound Danny Fortson.
Now they get it in for a stop. Inside it goes for a jam by Danny Fortson.
With 4 minutes remaining in the half, the Hawks were down by 16.
Up to Patterson for a jam. Boy, the Bearcats are roaring right now, and Roy's going to have to use a timeout.
While the Bearcats roared, it was Kansas that possessed the competitive heart of a lion.
They're beginning to catch a little bit of fire.
And he stopped it. Up over Jackson Juleson, the 6'9 center. Getting really good shots at the moment, and they're missing. Billy for 3. Good! Billy Thomas, a three-pointer for Kansas. It's a one-point ball game. KU's come from 16 down to pull within 1. Jayhawks could take the lead with a bucket here. Pierce, a long one. It is good! A three-pointer by Paul Pierce. Hawks have the lead. Robertson got bumped in the lane. Now Robertson a 3. Good! And he hits the deck. It's a three-pointer by Ryan Robertson. KU leads by 7. They're one of the best in the country. Pierce penetrates the three-point line and stops it. He turned down an open 3 and took it to the goal. Kansas rallies in the second half to beat Cincinnati 72-65. What a KU comeback.
On this night, Kansas made believers out of doubters. Now 6-0, the Hawks were headed back out west for another tough road test.
You can't touch me, boo! Don't try to poison me and get me on the airplane, boo! I pity the boo!
UCLA 83, Kansas 79. KU by 14.
On a beautiful California December day, the Jayhawks ventured into historic Pauley Pavilion. There, the UCLA Bruins and their fans were eager to avenge last season's 15-point loss in Lawrence.
Here comes Charles O'Bannon. Bruins.
While it was close early, the Hawks took control midway through the first half.
KU with the ball. Rafe LaFrance out to Billy for a long 3. He got it! Well, that was way behind the three-point line.
Boy, there's 2 bombs by Billy.
Particularly at the end. A near steal by Haas, but Bailey hangs on. Then Robertson knocks it away. Jared Haas has got it. Up to Rafe. Now to Jared. Layup. Got it!
That
Kansas staged a 31-15 run and led by 21 at intermission.
Oh my God. 13 for Billy Thomas.
Rafe LaFrentz was absolutely unstoppable, netting a career-high 31 points.
Layup is good by LaFrentz. They play it into Billy Thomas. You wanted his hands a lot right now. An alley-oop to Rafe and a stop on the feed from Ryan Robertson. It is 46-22, and the fans here at Pauley Pavilion are booing. Well, listen to them.
California natives Paul Pierce, Scott Pollard, and Jared Haas tacked on another 44 points. Billy Thomas blistered the nets from the perimeter, hitting 4 of 6 three-pointers.
Thomas is on radar.
He really is.
18 for Billy.
Meanwhile, Ryan Robertson registered a career-best 11 assists. The final, Kansas 96, UCLA 83. For the second straight year, KU handed the Bruins a crushing blow.
Oh, that's always special for me and for the team that featured 4 or 5 California players, and it was something special for us to get home and play the way we did and come out with a win, and everybody came back home with smiles on their face.
Undefeated at 7-0, the Jayhawks had passed their early season road test. On December 11th, KU head coach Roy Williams was concerned his team might be due for a letdown. To make matters worse, they faced a solid George Washington team that would like nothing better than to knock off the nation's #1 ranked team. KU struggled early, but held a 1-point lead midway through the first half.
Into Pugh with his back to the goal. He puts up a reverse layup that goes in.
Boy, that was quite a shot there.
That proved to be the wake-up call for the Hawks, who then went on an 11-2 run.
Bradford shoots in a three-pointer, and the Hawks extend their lead to 6.
However, the Colonials fought back, paced by 7-1 center Alexander Cool.
Foul line, he banks it in off the glass. Cool's got 8.
GW seemed to have seized the game's momentum. That was until KU's Billy Thomas stole it back.
1.4 seconds to play. Still over to Billy. Billy shoots. Hit it! He got it! A three-pointer!
Hey at home, man. 1.4, and they did the job.
The three-point lift carried over into the second half for KU.
Blocked by Pollard! Out on the floor it goes, and it's loose, and Pierce flips it to Haas. Haas dunked it! What a play by Paul Pierce after the block by Scott Pollard.
Boy, it was he.
Kansas cruised to a 29-point victory and extended its home court win streak to 31 games. The Jayhawks hit the century mark for the first time in the season with a 105-73 pounding of UNC Asheville. The Hawks scorched the nets, hitting 57% from the field and again owned the boards.
Now into BJ. BJ scored.
But the real excitement of the day was provided by Kansas reserve C.B. McGrath.
Grab up the court, and he missed the dunk, but it's followed in there by Nick Bradford. C.B. wanted to dunk it, and all his teammates are giving him the devil.
Because he does it all the time in practice.
Even the head coach is trying not to laugh.
With 9 wins in 9 games, the Jayhawks had good reason to smile. In their final outing before the Christmas holiday, the Jayhawks squared off against the North Carolina State Wolfpack in Allen Fieldhouse.
By 10, 33.
KU was on fire, hitting 60% of its shots.
His man fell down, and Pollard gets an easy jam. Now to Robertson, ahead to Pugh. He goes inside and got it. Nice play by TJ.
Again, the Jayhawks beat the buzzer at halftime.
4 seconds. Robertson right side to Jared. Jared a guarded jump shot up and good! It's good! It's a three-pointer! Oh, they say 2! They say 2, but it does count!
What a basket by Jared.
In 10 starts, point guard Ryan Robertson had guided Kansas to a perfect 10-0 record.
One-on-one against Benjamin. Layup good! They count the basket and call a block on Benjamin.
During that period, Robertson kept the Jayhawks on course. The next time Kansas took the floor, his friend and teammate Jacque Vaughn would be back in uniform to help share the duties of running this talented team. When #1 ranked Kansas took the court against Washburn University, there was little doubt about who would win. However, this was a game that had its own share of drama. KU center Scott Pollard squared off against his brother Neil a center for the Ichabods. But the real story of the day unfolded midway through the first half. It was the moment every Kansas fan had been waiting for.
Waved in, and here he comes. Listen to the crowd.
Oh, what a great moment.
It had been a long journey back. After missing the first 10 games of his senior season, Jacque Vaughn was back in his element, running the show for the Kansas Jayhawks.
There's Jacque shooting in a three-pointer. Jacque Vaughn with a three, his first basket of the season.
Jacque points up at the sky and thanks the Almighty right there. He's just happy to knock that first one down.
Yes, Vaughn was back, and no one was happier for him than Ryan Robertson, who graciously accepted his new role as a reserve. The Jayhawks won the game 90-65. It was a perfect ending to 1996.
The sound from the crowd I'll never forget. Those are the things that I'll treasure forever. Just being able to walk back out on the court and put that number 11 back on and run up and down the court competitively, special.
But what a great moment, and it really was. The electricity, the feel that you got from the crowd when he goes out on the court and when he's introduced is something that is one of those good times you're going to remember for a long time.
Kansas rang in the new year with a resounding 58-point victory over the Brown Bears. Jayhawks schooled the Ivy League club inside and out. Billy Thomas scorching the nets, knocking down 7 of 10 three-pointers for a game-high 21 points. Reserve T.J. Pugh scored a career-high 12 points.
Pugh on the baseline, scores! That was a tough shot. 2:50 to go. Ransom in the corner to Nooner for a shot. Good! A three-pointer by Terry Nooner.
A 107-49 victory was the 6th largest in KU history. To kick off the inaugural Big 12 season, the Jayhawks traveled to Kansas State to renew their cross-state rivalry with the Wildcats.
It's rocking in the Little Apple tonight.
This was no easy conference opener.
Jayhawks just aren't sharp.
They don't look like number one in the nation right now. The Wildcats have given the Jayhawks more than they've wanted.
At halftime, it's Kansas 33, Kansas State 29.
After the intermission, KU went on a 14-4 run to lead by 15 with 11:10 remaining. Then the Cats came back, closing to within 1 point, but Billy Thomas tapped the missed B.J. Williams free throw out to Jacque Vaughn, who was fouled.
13 and a half seconds to play, 60-59, KU by 1. Jacque Vaughn to the line. 2 shots for Jacque. Here it comes, it's up. Good, he made them both!
Then KU's defense took charge, and the Jayhawks escaped with the win, 62-59, despite shooting just 28.8% from the field.
KU, incredibly, has won in Manhattan for the 14th year in a row.
Boy, and what
Just 2 days later, KU hosted the Texas Longhorns in the ESPN Big Monday matchup of the week. Kansas again began the game with poor shooting, hitting just 7 of 29 first-half shots.
This is UGLY.
Well, fortunately, KU's made 9 free throws out of 15 tries. That's the only thing keeping them in the ball game.
Then to open the second half, the Longhorns went on a 15-9 run, including a 4-point play by UT's senior guard, Reggie Freeman. But then KU took over, forcing a full-court run-and-gun tempo on the Longhorns.
Inside LaFrenz, a turnaround. Good, up over Jordan.
KU really starting to play well offensively now.
Boy, LaFrenz putting together a great second half.
LaFrenz, who scored just 1 first-half point, finished with 15 points and 10 rebounds as KU won its 14th straight game, 86-61, going to 2-0 in Big 12 play. Later that same week, the Jayhawks ventured out of the Big 12 Conference to take on Niagara. KU dominated the Purple Eagles across the board, shooting over 70% from the field. Rafe LaFrenz poured in 27 points to lead the Jayhawks to a 134-73 victory. On Saturday, the Jayhawks made their first ever trip to the Lone Star State for a conference game. Playing before a Farrell Center record crowd of 10,475, the Bears held their own inside, out-rebounding Kansas in the first half, and sitting Scott Pollard down with early foul trouble.
Hunter goes to the hoop over Pollard, that's his third!
But the Jayhawk guards were too much for Baylor. KU's backcourt was led by Jared Haas, 18-point performance.
Haas baseline reverse, and he gets it to roll home!
The final, 87-68. The Jayhawks, however, weren't all smiles.
Pollard comes down on his ankle hard, though, and he's hurt.
Scott Pollard was forced to sit out the final 5 minutes of the game with an ankle sprain. When Iowa State entered the Fog, they too were undefeated in Big 12 play. It was number 1 in the country versus number 8. But both teams had chinks in their armor. ISU guard and leading scorer Dedrick Willoughby was recovering from a pulled hamstring, and Pollard's sprained ankle was slowing him down. Pollard, in a gutty performance, played 30 minutes and tallied 10 points and 7 rebounds.
Pierce in traffic, dumps it into Pollard for a jam!
Willoughby hit 3 of 4 three-pointers in the first half, but his injury forced him to the bench in the second half. In his absence, the Jayhawks poured it on. Jared Haas had 11 points on 5 of 6 shooting.
Left side, Jared Haas, a 3. Swish!
Rafe LaFrentz had 16 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 blocks.
Jacque plays into LaFrentz, who scores for Kansas.
Point guard Jacque Vaughn registered 7 assists on the day, leaving him just 1 shy of tying Cedric Hunter's Big 8 record of 684 career assists. KU wins 80-67. Vaughn's assist record was the least of the Jayhawks' worries as they once again left Big 12 competition to face a determined Huskies team. UConn had lost 2 starters, Kurt King and Ricky Moore, to suspensions earlier in the week. The depleted team was forced to start 3 freshmen, a sophomore, and a junior against the deep and experienced Jayhawks. But the young Huskies weren't going to go down easily. They hit 7 of their first 9 shots and jumped out to a 23-7 lead. The Jayhawks found themselves in a 16-point hole. But Kansas came back to trail just 34-31 at halftime. In the second half, Kansas depth put the Huskies away. The bench poured in 22 points as the Hawks pulled away down the stretch. The 73-65 come-from-behind victory. Jacque Vaughn got his assist, 5 of them in fact. He'll go down in the books as the top career assist man in the history of the Big 8 Conference.
I think the Big 8 assist records typifies my career here. I think hopefully it shows my will to compete, my unselfishness on the basketball court, and the level of excellence that I try to achieve. And this is something that will always stand out in my mind.
The Jayhawks return to conference play to host the Aggies of Texas A&M, hoping to extend their Big 12 record to 5-0. No coming from behind this time. The Aggies were never really in it, as 4 KU players posted double figures.
KU's Paul Pierce comes up with it. Shot, layup good with the left hand on the left side. Outlet to Jared Haas. Haas up the court against Baroni. He scored. Here's Pierce for a stop.
Paul Pierce scores 19 points, 15 in the second half. But the true star of the game was the KU defense. The Jayhawks forced 25 A&M turnovers.
And that's 5 seconds. Kansas forces the turnover.
Tallied 6 steals.
And a steal. Jared Haas up the court against Brown. Layup good. It counts.
And 5 blocks, including one by Scott Pollard, which was his 200th career block. The Jayhawks win 89-60, extending their undefeated season to 19-0, tying the 1989-90 squad for the best start in the Roy Williams era. Ricardo Patton's Colorado Buffaloes were the surprise team of 1997. Picked to finish down the line in the Big 12, they entered their contest with the Jayhawks, ranked in the AP Top 25 for the first time since 1969, and were tied with KU atop the Big 12 standings. The largest crowd of the season filled the Coors Event Center to watch the #1 ranked Kansas team play the Buffs.
There's electricity in the house here today, and the reason is the excitement over this team.
It was a top team, however, playing without one of its top scorers and rebounders. Earlier in the week, X-rays of Scott Pollard's left foot revealed a stress fracture sustained in the Texas A&M game that would sideline him for a month. The Hawks jumped out to an early lead.
BJ shoots it in off the glass in traffic. BJ Williams scores 10-0 Kansas. Over here the side to Pierce. Open for a three. Good! A three-pointer by Paul Pierce. On up the court against Fryer. Layup. Good! What a play by Jacque Vaughn!
And led 39-27 at intermission. But a determined CU squad came out of the locker room firing. Colorado's all-conference guard Chauncey Billups hit a tray with 8 minutes to go to give the Buffs their first lead of the game, 62-61.
Plays it out to Billups for a long one. Good! Three-pointer! Colorado has the lead!
But then, taking advantage of their size despite the absence of Pollard, the Jayhawks went on a run of their own, holding the Buffaloes to just one of their last 11 shots.
Here's a shot by DeGray, blocked! Taken by Kansas!
Jared Haas, three-point shooting, and another impressive Rafe LaFren's performance.
Oh, has the big fella shown us a couple of hustle moves here today.
Led the Hawks to a 77-68 win.
And the Jayhawks are 20, and oh, it's over! The Hawks win it! 77-68! What a victory on the road for Kansas!
The Texas Tech Red Raiders were ready when #1 Kansas came to town. Led by junior center Tony Battie, the Red Raiders wanted to prove they could hang with #1 and came out with intensity to do it in the first half.
Well, right now, Texas Tech really has some springs in their step. It's Battie again. So far, the early round goes to the Batman.
Battie had 14 first-half points, 21 on the night. The Red Raiders hit 54% of their shots in the opening period, and Texas Tech headed to the locker room with a 47-33 halftime lead. The 14-point halftime deficit was KU's largest of the season. But like they had done against Cincinnati and Connecticut, the Hawks came out in the second half and went right to work. On defense, that is.
He throws it right into the arms of Robertson. Robertson lays it up over the front of the rim, and the Jayhawks are within one. Wow, what a comeback.
2 steals each by Ryan Robertson and Jared Haas fueled a 19-3 Kansas run that ended with a 69-64 lead. Paul Pierce tallied 16 second-half points.
This guy here has been terrific this half. Paul Pierce just absolutely is taking control and wants to score when he catches the ball.
And once KU had the lead, the Jayhawks never looked back, using their depth to stay in front of a tired Red Raider team, winning 86-77. They brought a 21-0 record back to Lawrence, where they would face a hungry Nebraska Cornhusker team looking to end a 3-game conference skid. Like Texas Tech, Nebraska came out and challenged Kansas, not just in the first half, but throughout the game. The Jayhawks were outshot, out-rebounded, and struggled from the free throw line.
I mean, this Nebraska team came to play, didn't they?
Boy, did they ever.
This Tyronn Lue is really a good-looking player. Sophomore guard Tyronn Lue racked up 26 points, 8 rebounds, and 5 assists.
Kansas leading Nebraska by 2. B.J. Williams on the line for the Jayhawks. This has been some ball game. The miss. Paul Pierce tried to keep it alive. Belcher has it. Nebraska could tie it with a deuce, take the lead with a tray. Good by Vincent Hamilton. We're tied at 60.
Lue had a chance to win it with a 3-point shot at the buzzer.
23 seconds to play, 20 on the shot clock. Nebraska with the ball, tied at 60.
That's great defense.
We're going to overtime.
Kansas entered its first overtime period of the season. The extra frame, however, was a whole new game. Kansas scored on each of its 12 possessions.
What an effort by Rafe LaFrenz. Boy, Rafe has been a man possessed in this overtime.
For the third time in 3 games without Scott Pollard, LaFrenz led KU in scoring with 20. 11 of those points coming in overtime, ensuring the KU win.
This ball game is over. KU is 22-0.
Yeah, I guess it hasn't sunk in yet. maybe a couple years from now I'll look back and be like 22-0. That's a lot of consecutive wins, and that's the most ever to start a season at the University of Kansas, which really says a lot with the rich tradition here. To be able to do something that no other team has been able to do, it's definitely a special feeling that's given to our team.
In the 3 games since Scott Pollard's injury forced him to the bench, Kansas had survived 3 consecutive scares. Colorado, Texas Tech, and Nebraska had each threatened to put an end to KU's perfect season. When the Jayhawks traveled to the hostile confines of the Hearn Center to face arch-rival Missouri, life didn't get any easier. 2 of the last 3 years, Kansas had failed to bring home the W from Columbia. And even though the Tigers were struggling this season, Kansas knew they'd see Missouri's best game. What the fans watching the game saw was the Classic in Columbia, an unforgettable 2-hour and 35-minute war that some call the best game in the history of the rivalry. Missouri jumped out to an 8-2 lead thanks to Derek Grimm's 8 consecutive points to start things off. But Kansas ended the half with a 12-4 run and went to the break with a 33-32 lead.
One of the best first halves we've seen all year long. Missouri hangs tough at home. Roy Williams' Jayhawks keep their composure, and it's the Hawks by 1 over the Tigers after 20 minutes.
Just 24 seconds into the second half, Paul Pierce picked up his 4th foul.
Sutherland take it right to a guy with 3 fouls. Pierce will have a seat. And the aggressive play by Pierce draws his 5th foul. Paul Pierce only 4 points and 1 rebound tonight.
With 9 seconds on the clock, Missouri led 71-68. And Jacque Vaughn was at the line, shooting 2.
71-69. LaFrance has it, and the game is tied.
So KU headed into its second OT in as many games. And like the Nebraska game, LaFrance was the go-to guy.
How about that, LaFrance again?
He had 12 points in the extra period, but the Tigers refused to give up. They trailed 7 times in OT, but continually managed to tie it up again with the solid free throw shooting they had displayed all season. Missouri's Kelly Thames, who led the Tigers with 24 points, was 10 for 10 from the line on the night. With 2 seconds left, Vaughn missed a jumper, leaving the game tied at 86. Double overtime. As in the first OT, neither team could pull away. With 2:42 to go in the second OT, Kansas led by 3, the largest lead for either team in the final 20 minutes of play.
Sutherland pushing it in. It's a 3, and the game is tied. 2.5 to go in the second overtime. 89 all.
Still tied with 5.6 seconds left, Vaughn went for the steal from Teron Lee.
Vaughn had it. Missouri gets it. Corey Tate! Corey Tate! 5.6 seconds remaining. And Missouri miraculously gets the ball back and takes the lead by 2.
Rafe LaFrance, already with 26 points and 16 rebounds, had a chance to be the hero of the day once again.
Missouri has the upset, and Kansas is unbeaten no longer.
That game was a joy to be a part of, and it was a great college basketball game regardless of the outcome. We just came up on the short end of the stick, but it was a wonderful game, and Missouri played their hearts out, and we played our hearts out.
After coming off the double overtime loss, it looked as if the Jayhawks might have a losing streak in the works with a trip to Ames, Iowa. The Cyclones came in ranked 6th in the nation and hoping to hand Kansas its first back-to-back losses since 1994. Kansas set the tone from the opening tip. Won by Kansas, BJ to Paul Pierce. Into A for a stop! Wow, what a start for KU!
Was it ever?
But the Cyclones' Dedrick Willoughby was the man in the first half, hitting 5 out of 6 from the three-point line to keep Iowa State in contention and leading late in the first. And Jacque Vaughn seemed to add life to the Jayhawks with the 3 to pull Kansas within 1, only to have Willoughby answer from NBA range to go into the half.
15 on the
It was nip and tuck early in the second period with the Jayhawk defense putting them back out in front, and Paul Pierce leading the way. Cyclone big man Kelvin Cato drew his fourth foul, which opened up the inside game of the Jayhawks. And when Cato came back into the game, Paul Pierce made one of the biggest plays of the afternoon, drawing the charge against Cato. Again opening the middle for Pugh and LaFrance, who led the way with 21 points, including 4 made free throws down the stretch to seal the Kansas win and secure the top ranking in the country despite Willoughby's 36-point effort. And it showed Kansas had the ability to bounce back after a tough loss. The Jayhawks headed home and went on a 4-game tear that would send teams running for cover. The first victim was Eddie Sutton's Oklahoma State Cowboys. The Jayhawks would lead the entire game, opening with a 16-4 run. Kansas would shoot almost 64% from the field. Rafe LaFrance again led the way with 22 points and 7 boards. Jacque Vaughn chipped in with 10 assists, as 4 Jayhawks scored in double figures in a game that didn't get any closer than 9 points after the initial run, and the Jayhawks ran their record to 24-1. Next up in Allen Fieldhouse, the upstart 15th-ranked Colorado Buffaloes. They were looking to prove their season so far hadn't been a fluke. Somebody forgot to tell Kansas that Colorado was a good team because this was a blowout. Kansas had 5 players in double figures, led again by LaFrance with 23. Paul Pierce and Jared Haas backed that up with 18 each. This coming a week after Haas found out he was playing with a fracture in his shooting hand. The Jayhawks hit 54% from the floor, but their defense may have been the MVP of this game. Kansas, and Jacque Vaughn in particular, held Colorado All-American Chauncey Billups to a 3 for 14 shooting effort and forced him to turn the ball over 8 times. This game was never close, and Kansas won its 25th game for the 8th straight season, with 114-74 win. The first time in Kansas conference history, the Jayhawks scored over 100 points in back-to-back games. The third visitor of the homestand was the Missouri Tigers, and a chance for Kansas to get revenge for their only loss of the season. And after the first possession, it looked like it would be an easy day for the Jayhawks. Rafe LaFrance hit a turnaround for a 2-zip lead. But this is Missouri, and they came to fight, trading baskets throughout most of the first half, through relentless defense on both ends of the court. Paul Pierce was the driving force for the Jayhawks, hitting 11 points in the first. The big play of the half came with time winding down, and KU up 1. Ryan Robertson hit a 40-foot desperation jumper to go up 4 as the Hawks went to the locker room. In the second half, LaFrance made a statement.
Rafe stuffed it in there! Rafe LaFrance for the Thunder Jam!
Rafe followed the dunk with a jumper as he began to take over the game, scoring 23 second-half points and delivering any time the Tigers made it close. LaFrance would end the day with 31 points, 10 boards, and 4 blocks. And when the dust settled at the end of the game, after a little shoving match, the Jayhawks avenged their only loss with a 79-67 win over the Tigers. The last game of the homestand saw the return of Scott Pollard and a farewell in Allen Fieldhouse to the senior class. The 6 seniors, Jacque Vaughn, Jared Haas, Pollard, B.J. Williams, walk-ons Joel Brandstrom and Steve Ransom were honored before the game. As the first half began, LaFrance brought down the house with a dunk. But this K-State team wasn't going away quietly. KU's biggest lead of the first half came on this LaFrance turnaround J to go up 22-17. Wildcats fought back and went to the break with a 31-30 lead. The Jayhawks came back in the second half and outscored the Wildcats 13-7 to take a 5-point lead on a LaFrance follow. And they never looked back, blowing out the Cats 78-58. LaFrance led the way with 21 points and 11 rebounds. Haas chipped in with 16 as the Jayhawks ended the homestand at 4-0. As KU went back out on the road to conclude the Big 12 regular season, Norman, Oklahoma was the first to stop. And the Sooners jumped to an early 7-point lead, 16-9. But Kansas would answer with a 22-2 run, capped by a Rafe LaFrenz bucket. And it looked like Kansas was well on its way to yet another blowout as the Jayhawks went into the half with a 15-point lead. The Sooners weren't done, however, coming out in the second half and outscoring KU 29-15 to cut the lead to 1 on the Eduardo Nahara bucket. Kansas never relinquished the lead and even moved up by 9 on this Jacque Vaughn drive. And Nate Erdman led the Sooners back with a couple of big threes. Then with 16 seconds left, Vaughn hit one of 2 free throws to put KU up 2, giving Oklahoma a last chance to win or send it to overtime. But in the final seconds, the Sooners couldn't get the lid off the rim.
Balling, won't go, inside, Nahara, can't get it to go. Pass takes it away, here comes,
And the Jayhawks held on to win 70-68, with Vaughn leading 4 Jayhawks in double figures with 16 points. The top-ranked Jayhawks closed out their regular season at Nebraska, a team that gave them a scare at Allen Fieldhouse earlier in the season. Kansas dominated the first half as they never trailed, and only letting the Cornhuskers within 2 points once and going to halftime with a 41-28 lead. The second half was more of the same as the blowout was on. Rafe LaFrenz led KU with 23 points and 10 boards, his 17th double-double of the season. Paul Pierce joined in with an 18-point, 8-rebound performance, and Scott Pollard came off the bench to score 14 and grab 12 boards. The final score saw Kansas win 85-65 in their final tune-up before heading to Kansas City for the Big 12 tournament. The Jayhawks' first opponent in Kemper Arena was Oklahoma State, and it looked like KU had another blowout on its hands, taking an early 9-2 lead. But Eddie Sutton's team answered with an 8-0 run of its own to take the lead. Kansas couldn't break away until late in the first half on this Jacque Vaughn drive, and KU took a comfortable 7-point lead into halftime. To start the second half, both teams came out and traded baskets until the 16-minute mark, when Keontae Roberts and the rest of the Cowboys started to charge to get back into the game, taking the lead at 49-47 when Brent Robish hit this 3 for the first OSU lead of the second half. After several ties and lead changes, Jacque Vaughn drew this charge against Roberts for his 5th foul with 5:20 left in the game. Roberts left after hitting for 23 points and grabbing 7 boards, with the score tied at 57. After Roberts left, Kansas outscored the Cowboys 17-2 to advance to the semifinals. The score 74-59, with Paul Pierce leading with 16 points. In the semifinals, Kansas ran into Tim Floyd and Iowa State. This was again a tough first half battle for the Jayhawks against the pesky Cyclones. Both teams had to battle for every shot as Kansas clung to a 27-23 first half lead. In the second half, KU's defense was spectacular, and the difference, not allowing a Cyclone basket for the first 10.5 minutes of the second half. KU going on a 24-4 run. The other turnaround of the second half was Rafe LaFrenz, who had only 2 first half points and responded with 12 in the second to end up with 14 and 13 boards. Paul Pierce led the way with 19 points for Kansas as the Jayhawks advanced to the finals of the first Big 12 tournament with a 72-48 blowout of Iowa State. And in the finals, Kansas came across the only team to beat them thus far in the season, Norm Stewart and the Missouri Tigers. KU opened the game with a 20-9 run and never looked back. Paul Pierce led the annihilation with 30 points on 12 of 18 shooting, 3 of 4 from behind the three-point line. Pierce also grabbed 11 boards and was named the tournament's outstanding player. Joining Pierce on the all-tournament team were Rafe LaFrenz and Jacque Vaughn. LaFrenz had 16 points and 7 boards against the Tigers. The final, 87-60. At one point in the second half, Kansas led by 33 points before Coach Williams gave his top players the rest of the day off. With the #1 seed in the NCAA tournament secured, the Jayhawks simply kicked back to see in what region they would play.
Well, it began out of Oklahoma. I think the story goes, as Coach told it, I think it was at Maryland. When Maryland would beat teams, big games, they would always sing, the crowd would start singing amen. And Coach always, I don't think he was a big fan of that. So in our locker room, we weren't going to do it in public, but in our locker room after a big win, we were going to start singing that. And he led us in the first verse of the first one.
Yeah, chalk it up, baby. It's showtime now.
Just hours after wrapping up the Big 12 Tournament Championship, March Madness officially began. In what had become a tradition at KU, the players and staff headed over to head coach Roy Williams' house Sunday evening for some ice cream and cookies. But more importantly, they tuned into the NCAA Tournament Selection Show.
Games in Memphis, Tennessee. The top seed, Kansas, top-ranked team in the country with the best record in the country.
For the third time in 6 years, the Jayhawks were awarded a #1 seed. The next day, Kansas found itself atop the Associated Press poll for the 15th week in a row. The Hawks arrived in Memphis Tuesday night, March 11th. After press conferences and a practice at the Pyramid on Wednesday, the team headed to historic Beale Street in downtown Memphis. After a dinner of barbecue at the Rendezvous, they got a taste of the Memphis nightlife. Thursday, March 13th, the day Kansas fans everywhere had been waiting for, the NCAA Tournament. Jackson State, KU's first-round opponent, was on a hot streak, winning its last 7 games of the season, including the Southwest Athletic Conference Tournament. KU came into this game without a healthy Jacque Vaughn, who was fighting a battle with bronchitis.
No matter how bad I was feeling, I was going to try to keep it from my coaches and my teammates and just get a victory, because I had been out enough that year and I didn't want my season to end that way at all.
Meanwhile, the Hawks' offensive skills seemed to be ailing as well, hitting only 37% for the game.
Over to Pollard, who shoots and misses. To rebound, Jackson State.
But again, the Hawks dominated the boards. Scott Pollard grabbed a career-high 19 rebounds.
KU by 1. Here comes Ryan Robertson up the court. He takes it all the way, and he lays it in there. Out front, Paul Pierce. Right of the circle to Jacque. A lob into Rafe, and he lays it in on the feed from Jacque Vaughn. That's back to single numbers. Hawks with the ball. Robertson, an open 3. Bingo! Ryan Robertson drills it from the left side.
The Jayhawks led by 13 at the half. However, Kansas fans held their breath just 2.5 minutes into the second period when Vaughn picked up his 4th foul of the game and headed to the bench.
It's on Jacque. That's 4 on Jacque. Jacque was going for the loose ball.
A minute later, the Tigers had cut the Kansas lead to 7 points.
On the bench with 4. Draper, a fall-away 3. He hit it, or isn't it?
It was then that Paul Pierce stepped forward, sparking a 16-0 Kansas run.
He missed it. Rebound Pierce. He tipped it in there. 55-45. Kansas, 10:50 to go. Here's Pierce on the blocks. Turnaround. Got it. He may be warming up. William goes to the lane. And a pass stolen by Jared Haas. Jared behind the back dribble. Here he comes up the court to Pierce. Back to Jared. He lays it in. Great transition.
Oh, that was beautiful.
Right side to Jared Haas. Into BJ. BJ lays it in there off the glass.
KU stepped it up on the defensive end of the floor as well, holding the Tigers to 35% shooting. They blocked 13 Jackson State shots tying an NCAA tournament record.
That's your 12-0 run.
There's a block by Pierce out of bounds on a shot attempt by DiCardo Draper.
A spectacular three-point shooting exhibition by Jackson State's Trent Pulliam was not enough.
He goes in the ball game.
Boy, I tell you,
Kansas advanced to the second round with a 78-64 victory.
Junior, here's CB shooting and scoring on the baseline, and the ball game is over.
Again, we found a way to win. We did not play our best offensive game. We didn't play our best game overall. But we ended up finding a way to win, and that became controlling the backboards and defense.
A trip to Memphis would not be complete without visiting Graceland, the home of rock and roll legend Elvis Presley. With the mighty Mississippi rising outside the pyramid, the Jayhawks prepared to do battle with the Purdue Boilermakers. Still slowed by a virus, point guard Jacque Vaughn was feeling good enough by Saturday to suit up and play for the Jayhawks.
And he shoots and misses. A tip no good. Rebound on the deck, and Jacque goes after it for KU. They've got it. Here's Pierce. Pull-up jumper. Good!
Boy, what a play.
How about those Hawkers?
Great defense at the other end. The Jayhawks going after the loose ball. Look at Jacque.
KU up the floor. Pierce into TJ Pugh, and he lays it in. Great ball movement by Kansas.
While the Boilermakers proved to be physical inside, the Hawks began pushing the ball up the court to take a first-half lead.
Well, Rafe inside, jams it on a lob pass from Jared Haas.
Rafe LaFrenz protects it. He goes left side, and he goes to the baseline, and he
Stuffed it! The big guy took it inside and jammed it.
pass of Kansas. Here's Brad Miller. The ball knocked away, taken by Billy Thomas. KU with a steal. Billy ahead to Jacque, now to Billy, a three.
Good! Billy Thomas rattles in a three-pointer.
Boy, there was no question that was a three. That was way behind the line.
Down to 4 on the shot clock. A long three. Got it! What a clutch bucket by Allen Eldridge.
With Purdue closing in on the Hawks just before the half, Vaughn gave Kansas the all-important momentum heading into the locker room.
Follows it in. Rafe LaFrenz with his 12th point, and the Hawks lead by 8. And a steal by Jacque, and he shoots it to Horn, and it's good. He shot it in on the right side. They got 2 baskets.
What a way to finish the half. Terrific. Rafe, a great play on the missed shot by Jared, and then Jacque, that quick little rascal, jumped in there, stole that ball, and shot it in the blink of an eye, and Kansas is up by 10.
They got a 4-point possession, as it turned out. How about that? Miller's got the ball.
Still, Gene Katie's Boilermakers were not about to back down. With 10 minutes left in the game, Purdue took a 1-point lead when Chad Austin knocked in this jumper.
He hit it! Purdue has the lead!
The Boilermakers' lead lasted exactly 22 seconds as Jacque Vaughn hit one of the biggest shots of the year.
Now the Hawks with Jacque, a three. Good! Three-pointer by Jacque Vaughn gives him 10.
Boy, the flu or not, KU's leader came right back to answer the measure right there.
A Rafe LaFrenz dunk on KU's next possession seemed to demoralize Purdue.
Fouls goes inside for a stop. They got around Gary McQuay.
Billy Thomas connected on key three-point baskets throughout the second half.
For three. Good! Billy Thomas rings the bell from the far side.
Jacque Vaughn left side. Over to Billy from the corner.
Good! A three-pointer by Billy Thomas. It's a 10-point lead.
As they had done all season long, the Jayhawks weathered the storm. It was KU's 34th victory of the season, the second most wins in KU history, vaulting the Hawks into the Sweet 16 for the 5th straight season.
It is over, and the Jayhawks win it, 75-61. It's on to Birmingham.
Number 1, baby, Lawrence, Kansas. Woo! Go Hawks!
Heading into their semifinal matchup against Arizona, Roy Williams' club suffered a serious blow. While Jared Haas had played courageously all season long with his broken wrist, the pain seemed to have hit its peak at the most critical time of the season.
I guess 2 practices beforehand, I didn't practice at all. I tried to do a layup, and it was pretty tender. And then before the game, we went to a shoot-around, and it was still pretty sore. Had some trouble dribbling, passing, shooting the ball.
I go out and talk to him, and he said, Coach, that's as far out as I can shoot, but I'd like to try. Well, that youngster's given me so much that I'm going to give him an opportunity to try.
When game time arrived, Haas took the court against the Wildcats. One of the Jayhawks' most fiery competitors, Haas fought off the intense pain.
Out on the perimeter it goes to Dickerson, and then a steal. Here comes Jarrett up the court. Layup, good! Jarrett Haas gets the first basket of the ball game.
Boy, oh boy, how about that? The guy who's so sore he can hardly play.
The heart and courage he showed this night was nothing less than amazing. Ultimately, his wrist gave out. The Hawks would have to battle this determined Arizona team without one of their best defensive players.
Now Jacque's got it out front.
Kansas surged ahead late in the first half.
Ryan Robertson a three. He hit it! Ryan Robertson nails one.
But Arizona's Michael Bibby and Michael Dickerson hit key jumpers to spark a Wildcat rally.
Arizona trying to take the lead, and a shot by Dickerson is good, and they have the lead. Dickerson.
And it was Lute Olson's club that took a 2-point lead to the locker room. In the second half, KU's Scott Pollard and Jacque Vaughn ran into foul trouble. Arizona took advantage and led by 9 with just under 10 minutes to play.
4 fouls.
Paul Pierce sparked a Kansas run that cut the Arizona lead to 2 with 7:25 on the clock. But the Wildcats countered with crushing 3-point baskets by Bibby and Miles Simon.
Mike Bibby to left corner to Simon for a 3. He got it.
Boy, you can't stop that kind of shooting right there.
To Simon in the corner now, and a shot put up by Bibby. Good! A 3-pointer by Mike Bibby. Arizona by 13.
Down by 13 with 3.5 minutes to play, all appeared lost for Kansas. At the season's darkest moment, Ryan Robertson and Billy Thomas provided Kansas with a glimmer of hope.
Jacque Vaughn, right side, Robertson a 3. Good! He knocked in a 3. Ryan Robertson, he has 3 threes.
Kansas under unbelievable pressure.
Rafe LaFrance over to Robertson. He drives inside and lays it in traffic.
With the heart of a champion, Kansas stormed back.
Up the court, Pierce knocked it away. Jacque takes it for KU.
They made one there.
Jacque with the ball, he goes inside, a miss. Rafe tipped it in, and he hits the deck. Into Bibby, back to Simon, now to Bibby. Bibby throws it. Pierce knocked it away and steals it. KU's got it. Jacque with it out front. Back to Billy from the corner, a 3. Good! It's good! They're within 3 points with 1 minute and 1 second to play. Here's Bibby into the lane area. He shoots! He got it!
Boy,
Bibby just turned and scored. He had an open 8-footer.
That was a huge one right there.
KU to the other end. Jacque out front with it to Billy in the corner. A guarded 3. He hit it! Billy hits another 3. Not over yet.
35 seconds.
Oh, they're down by 4 points. Rafe LaFrance out front. Holding high. Left side Robertson for a guarded 3. Good! He hit it! It's a 1-point game.
After Simon nailed a pair of free throws with 18 seconds left, the Jayhawks had a chance to tie the game with a 3-pointer.
Down to 13. Jacque Vaughn to Billy, a 3. Missed. Rebound out on the floor to Jacque. Jacque over to Robertson. Robertson, a long one, is missed. Rafe rebounds. He gets behind the 3-point line for a shot. Missed. It's over. It's over. Arizona hangs on and wins.
It was over. This phenomenal season had come to an end. It was a ride Jayhawk fans will remember forever.
I told them that life isn't necessarily always fair, and they've had a fantastic year. It's been a dream season, but we didn't reach our final dream. And that happens sometimes in life. But no one can have the feelings towards the kids in their locker room that I have towards the kids in my locker room.
Once the heartbreak of that final loss began to fade, the Jayhawks could look back on their phenomenal season with a great sense of pride and satisfaction.
But they came out in great numbers to welcome us back and show their appreciation. And so many times it's hard because we are given the accolades and they show us their appreciation so much, and as players it's hard to give them the appreciation back, but it means so much to us to have them there.
I don't think it's going to be easy to let go all the memories that I've built over the last 4 years, but especially this year has just been so much fun and so much entertainment. It's definitely been one of those journeys that Coach talks about that it's been very, very easy to enjoy.
Even though we didn't accomplish our I guess, ultimate goal of winning a national championship, that this was a remarkable year, and that the guys that were around, the coaching staff that was around, will be one to remember for a long time.
They made me a better coach, but I was also a much better person for being involved with them.
Yes, the 1996-97 Kansas Jayhawks were true champions on and off the court. It was an incredible journey. Along the way, they provided Kansas fans everywhere with the ride of a lifetime.